Owning a home in Naperville is about living a great life today and investing in a secure tomorrow. On this show, we're going to give you the tools to do both. Welcome to the Naperville Real Estate Weekly Market Update. Naperville, what's going on? It's Chris Grano with Keller Williams. I am joined here with my co-host, Mr. Todd Gosden of Compass Mortgage. This is the Naperville Real Estate Weekly Market Update. Todd, how you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. We got a little snow this weekend.
Nothing like a little snow. Listen, if it's going to be cold, we might as well see some white on the ground, right?
That's right. That's right. And I gotta, before we get into the podcast today, I gotta give a little happy birthday to my little boy Rock. He turned 4 years old today.
Happy birthday to him.
Yeah, put his shoes on for the first time by himself today, so he's moving up in the world.
That's great news. I love that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So hey, man. So let's dive right in. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, welcome, and you can make sure you follow us on YouTube, all the podcast platforms. But we're going to dive right into the Naperville numbers here for this past week. Todd's going to talk about what the mortgage world's doing, and then we've got a really great tip for you to be winning in this tough buyer's market. So we jump right in. 74 new listings this week, Todd. That number's down just a little bit from last week, but still really good activity. New homes coming on the market. We've got 90. This is a big number. Okay, so last week we had 75 homes under contract in Naperville. This week, 90 homes under contract. So, wow. Yeah, the market is heating up. That number's up 20% from last week. And, we were kind of astonished, I think, a little bit by how many listings hit the market last week. Well, buyers were right there to gobble them up just about as quick as they came on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, that's crazy, right?
Amazing.
So 35 homes closed this week in Naperville. It's kind of, again, if you go back 30, 45 days, you're right in the middle of Christmas. That makes sense. There weren't a lot of homes put under contract right around the holiday there. So, but again, just big activity happening, what some people might consider early in the season. But Todd and I are going to talk again about how it's not really that early, especially with the way the market's gone this year. Let me talk real quick about inventory. And this is another thing where some people may be surprised, especially if they didn't listen to the show last week. When we're looking at single-family homes in Naperville under $500,000, we're looking at 2.73 months supply of inventory. Wow. So that number's just a tiny bit higher than where we were last week, but still what that means, if you don't know what that term means, it's a strong seller's market. So you have to be on top of the ball as a buyer. You have to be ready to roll, and you have to be putting in strong offers. Here's the number that I think probably surprised both Todd and I last week, and it continues to move in the good direction for buyers. Homes between $500,000 and $1 million in Naperville, we're looking at a month's supply of inventory of 6.14. What that means is we have officially, in the matter of 3 or 4 weeks, gone from a fairly strong seller's market to a balanced market in 3 weeks.
That's amazing. Things are moving rapidly.
Yes. So, for the folks who have been, Todd and I talk a lot about buyers, but for the folks who have been dragging their feet on selling, oh man, don't drag your feet any longer. You probably hear my cat in the background. He's excited about the numbers too. All right. And then for those homes over 1 million, the numbers are pretty steady, but they climbing a little bit as well. That inventory is starting to increase, and we're looking at almost a year for the average home in that price range to sell. So amazing. Todd, we've talked about the inventory. We've talked about what's moving. Tell us what's happening in your world this past week.
Well, lots of things. Ultimately, the market is fantastic. I haven't seen this quick of a start to the market in all the years I've been doing finance of 25 years. So that says a lot about something, right? We are seeing numbers that we would normally see April, May, and June happening in January. So that's great, right? So we have an inventory shortage. We have no shortage of buyers and people wanting to buy. Lots of great things. Interest rates are still really, really stable. When you look at well-qualified buyers, being able to see terms of 15 years and lower in the lower twos and seeing terms of 16 to 30 years for well-qualified buyers in the upper twos, that's amazing. Meaning if you think back to people that were doing rates of 15, 18% of the early 80s. I've talked to a few people that have been around when they had those kind of interest rates, and who would ever thought we'd see numbers all in the twos like this? It's pretty outstanding. And you know what, frankly, it's a real dream for anybody who's looking to buy a house right now.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, when we bought our first home about 15 years ago, we were at rates in the low sixes.
Yeah.
And at the time, that wasn't that bad.
Not that bad. Not that bad at all.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
great opportunities are everywhere for everyone, and it's going to be real fun to see what happens as values start to climb a little bit in the community in this area, and we're starting to see rates maintain their stability in the twos. Lots of tremendous purchasing power for people to be able to buy now versus what they could have bought a year ago.
And so that kind of leads us into our tip and our recommendation for this week. This is something you and I talk about a lot, Todd, and that's I can't underscore enough how important it is, especially in a market like this, to be prepared. And the very first thing before I talk, it's one of the first questions I ask anybody who tells me, "Oh, we're going to be buying a house." I say, "Have you gotten pre-approved?" And it's funny. A lot of times they'll say, "Oh, no, we'll get there, but we want to buy in this price range." First question I asked them is, "Well, how do you know? How do you know, number one, can you afford that much? But maybe you can afford more." I've talked to some people who have said, "Well, we think we can buy at this," but they don't realize, to your point, how far rates have dropped in the last, maybe they started kicking around the idea 2 years ago about buying a house, and now they don't realize maybe they can afford $50,000, $60,000, $75,000 more in house.
Pretty incredible. Well, and I think that the key to anybody being successful in a market where there's such a shortage of inventory is, we talk to people about, okay, present your best offer, right? You want to gain peace of mind in doing this, right? You want to know that you have a hope of winning the home that you really like. And lastly, you want to be able to act quickly when you're in that position to do so, right? And so many times I always say to everyone is start early, get yourself prepared, make sure there's no hiccups, make sure there's nothing we can run into, and give yourself that opportunity to act quickly when you find that house that you really, really want. That's number one. So tip number one is just be ready. So many times people call 1 or 2 days before they're going to start looking, and they take an experience that's emotional and make it more emotional, because now they found the perfect house and they're not prepared, and they don't win the perfect house because they weren't prepared, right? Which is a bummer, because I always feel bad for them at that point in time. But I see people starting to become more prepared. And I think ultimately, if you really want to have that chance of winning that house that you have the dream of buying, is when you start early, go ahead and get that file, that opportunity into the underwriting process. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually submit a file to underwrite it without having a property address. So think about having your file go in, knowing that it's going to get done and it's already been underwritten, and for you to be able to walk in and make an offer and say, "Hey, listen, we are already clear to close other than our appraisal and title." Every listing agent's going to look at you and go, "Why? How did that happen?" Right? Because it doesn't happen often, number one. And number two is, yes, I'll take that every time, even over a cash offer, because we already know everything is done. So what would it look like to be able to say to someone, "Hey, we're done with everything, and now you have the opportunity to close in 15 days if you really want to."
And
So
you're absolutely right, because I want to say, you just mentioned about, what listing agents look at. So I had 2 properties hit the market this last week. Neither of them lasted longer than 2 days, multiple offers, bidding war. That's what a lot of the market's like right now.
sure.
So I'm in the position as listing agent, okay, of reviewing these offers. A lot of times they're super close in both price and terms. So how do I differentiate? Well, one of the big ones is I'm going to try to do everything I can to verify that financing is going to make it to the finish line.
Yep.
And, and a lot of times, my sellers will say, "Well, what do you think's the best?" And I'll say, "Well, to be honest with you, they're pretty close. And, the more we know about how it has that gone to underwriting yet? What has that lender used to verify that pre-approval?" Because you and I know that there are, in a market like this, there are people that will slap together a piece of paper really quickly, and that piece of paper's, not worth the ink that's printed on it.
That's true.
And so I can't tell you enough as an agent, you're 100% right. And let me also say, Well, let me ask you this, actually, Todd. Okay, if I were to come to you and say, Todd, my wife and I want to buy a house, and we think we want to buy a house in June. Is it too early to have a conversation with you?
No. I mean, I have people right now that have been pre-approved and underwritten that started last October. Because now they have peace of mind. It's like, here's the feeling when you're going to buy a car or a car that, like, listen, I'm not sure I want to spend the money. That feeling you get in your stomach when you're signing the papers? I think we all know what that feeling is. Think about that buying the biggest investment of your life and saying, okay, yeah, I want this. Now I have this nervous energy and I'm not sure if I can or I can't. And, should I be doing this or should I not? That's why you prepare, right? You prepare to buy a car. You prepare to go out and buy a new stove or whatever it is. But when it comes to a house, you just make such a fast decision to do it. And that was what leads to the anxiety of, am I doing the right things, right? And so it doesn't matter how far in advance you're getting ready. The bottom line is you're prepared enough to understand that what matters is your monthly payment, and what matters is you're walking into this knowing your price point that you can actually afford and feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and let me just tell you from an agent perspective of, not only do I want my buyers to have all their financing lined up because, number one, I'm not getting out in the car with somebody until they do that, just to be honest, because this market's too competitive. We're not going to waste sellers' time. I don't want to waste your time as a buyer if you're not ready.
Yeah.
But once you get that in place, hey, listen, it's not too early to talk to, an agent as well, a buyer's agent, because their opportunities happen so fast right now. And I have been so grateful to be able to find some off-market opportunities for a lot of my buyers over the last year to where we can skirt around these multiple offer scenarios by just being proactive. So that's a matter of, me looking at what's coming soon, me talking to my colleagues at Keller Williams. Keller Williams, for example, we've got, as you know, Todd, about 400 agents at our Naperville office. We've got over 800 agents at our local suburban offices. We're constantly in communication with one another saying, hey, what do you have coming? I have a buyer looking for this. And for those of us agents who are proactive, we can often get these opportunities for our buyers that nobody else even knew about. But if you weren't plugged into me at the right time, I don't know what to be looking for.
That's right. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the bottom line is be ready. Just be ready. Shop for a house like you would a stove. Do your research, get yourself prepared before you go in and buy it. And that way it makes it an easier experience and a better experience for you for sure. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Well, you're 100% right. I appreciate it, Todd.
You're welcome.
Hey, thank you guys for joining us this week. With that, we're going to sign off for this week. We'll be here next week. Once again, join us on youtube.com/Chris Grano. You can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Make sure if you have questions, if you're looking to get pre-approved, if you're looking to find out what you can afford, get in touch with Todd and his team at Compass Mortgage. And you always know how to get a hold of me. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Todd, I'll see you next week.
See you, buddy. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.